All right. Welcome, everyone. I've been told we can get us all started. So welcome to the last session of the day. This is the breakout session 1.1, decarbonizing electrification. Really, this is about an affordability panel and how do we do this affordably? Since electrification is a key technology moving us toward achieving the state's greenhouse gas goal greenhouse gas objectives and goals. Today's panel is really just to discuss more about what each of the panelists are bringing toward that goal of affordability and decarbonization. And I guess to get us all started, and this question goes out to everyone. This discussion is about democratizing electrification. And can you all share what that means to you? And how is your technology, your focus, helping us to make that happen? So I'll open it up to somebody who wants to jump in there.
I can jump in. I'll first introduce myself. I am Rebecca Simonson. I'm the Director of Programs at Sonoma Clean Power. Sonoma Clean Power is a community choice aggregator, which means we serve electricity generation to our customers in Sonoma and Mendocino counties, so just north of San Francisco and Marin County. We have a very large territory, and we serve almost 200,000 homes and 31,000 non-residential locations. So we were...
Hold on, why don't you hold on right there, because I got ahead of us a little bit. So
okay.
Why don't we do those introductions, and then we'll come back to you to answer that question first. So Vince, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Thrilled to be here today. My name is Vince. We are Gradient. Gradient very much used California Energy Commission funding was a launch pad for us as a company. We would not be here without Energy Commission funding. So thank you for having me on this panel. Excited to be here. So Gradient makes heat pumps for those that need them most. I would say three things about the hardware that we're building. One is our hardware is the platform that we want to see for zero carbon buildings, which means it is a heat pump. We can electrify heating. Two, it uses a better refrigerant. Refrigerants are a huge piece of emissions in heating and cooling. And three, it's demand response ready. You need these devices to be demand response capable to electrify and decarbonize at the same time. Second thing I'd say about Gradient is the goal of our hardware is to dramatically reduce the cost and increase the speed of electrifying older buildings, especially that are often in the most need of energy retrofits. And so probably most of our customers are in older multifamily buildings that often have poor cooling, older fossil fuel powered heating. And the third thing I say about the hardware that we built is that we think climate change is ultimately as much or more about people as it is about polar bears and the planet. And so we design our products to make people's homes more comfortable, to have a better user experience, and with aesthetics in mind, because that's what we believe will propel our product to scale, and scale is necessary to decarbonize.
All right. Thanks, Vince. Greg, do you want to go from there?
Yeah, sure. So Blue Frontier is my fourth clean tech startup focused on the intersection of air conditioning and its impact on building energy efficiency, summer heat wave related electric reliability, cost-effective decarbonization of the grid, and sustainability in general. Blue Frontier uniquely addresses each of these problems by revolutionizing air conditioning for commercial buildings. In fact, where we are rethinking air, since we spend most of our time within buildings, our interaction with indoor air is essential to our health, productivity, well-being, and comfort. Air conditioning is transitioning from human comfort into a human right, necessary for survival during periods of extreme heat and humidity. As you know, air conditioning is the fastest growing use of electricity in buildings and a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. And most of this growth is associated with fresh air ventilation and humidity control, which present technology is unable to do efficiently and effectively. Current technology is viewed as unsustainable, and we are motivated to solving this problem. Blue Frontier is supplanting the 110-year-old vapor compression technology that was first commercialized by Carrier with a liquid desiccant-based product that was invented by our National Renewable Energy Laboratory. Blue Frontier transforms the air conditioning problem into a flexible distributed energy resource. Tests conducted at the UC Davis Western Cooling Efficiency Center under a Cal Test Bed grant validated ultra-high energy efficiency and the unique ability to independently control both humidity and temperature. Embedded energy storage is used to soak up California's excess midday renewable electricity and shift its use to the late afternoon and evening hours. Blue Frontier eliminates the economic and reliability of heat waves on the grid. Remarkably, our energy efficiency and cooling capacity both increase with rising temperature, future-proofing our buildings and grid from global warming. Pleased to be here. Thank you.
Great to have you, Greg. And Spencer, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Spencer Harrison. I'm the co-founder and CEO of NeoCharge. Would also like to ditto kind of what Vince said. I mean, if it weren't for some of the funding that the California Energy Commission has provided, we wouldn't be here today. What we do at NeoCharge is we help enable cleaner, easier, and more affordable EV charging and home electrification. Our first product, the Smart Splitter, makes it really easy to install or share a 240-volt outlet, so you don't need to get a multi-$1,000 panel upgrade to get EV charging and electric appliances in your home. And we're now building a EV charging and home energy platform that helps optimize energy in the home and connects directly with different devices. So really pleased to be here and excited to chat more.
All right. Well, thank you, Spencer. And I'll back up all the way to me. I am Scott Blunk. I am your moderator. I am the Deputy Director of Existing Buildings and Appliances in the Efficiency Division of the CEC. Relatively new job for me. And so now we'll get this started for real. So Rebecca, I think you were going to talk to us a little bit about democratizing electrification and kind of what that is to you and what your focus helps that.
Sure. So to me and to Sonoma Clean Power, democratization, which is a hard word to say, of decarbonization is providing education and awareness to the community, providing ease of access, and also providing financial support. You know, within our industry and our bubble, and probably everybody on this webinar, we understand what electrification is. We understand the technologies. The normal everyday person is living their life, trying to pay bills, going to job, doing homework, going to sporting events, whatever it is to get through their day. And they are not as clued in as we are. So really, through our funding from the EPIC grant for our Lead Locally project, we looked to pilot test different technologies in various homes and businesses. And from that, gather data and research of technologies that were really ready to scale at a larger level and to deploy. And so a big part of that was establishing a marketplace, of which we call the Advanced Energy Center. It's an actual physical location. There's also a website so that anyone in the area can access it without having to drive to Santa Rosa. But really what it is a showcase of different technologies. People can come in and feel it and see what it would look like in their home. They can talk to many of our customer service representatives about what it would mean for their utility bills, how they could get these installed, what it does for their decarbonization journey. It's really an education center, as well as, okay, well, what do we do next? And what they do next is they need to find a contractor that's going to install this, and they need help along that way. So we provide that help. So really, we're educating, we're providing access, and we're also providing financial support. We provide incentives for heat pump space conditioning, heat pump water heaters, induction cooking, and we provide an even higher incentive for low-income customers. We will fund up to 50% of a total project cost. So that includes panel replacements and ductwork or whatever is needed to install a project. And we also provided 0% on-bill financing. So there was no money needed up front for our customers to install these technologies if they chose to take that route. And that really took down the barrier of not being able to afford or being left behind in this decarbonization journey. Really, also, like people are skeptical of some of these technologies, especially induction cooking, right? They think of electric cooking as like those old electric coils that like I grew up with, and you burn half your meal, and it's just it's a super bad experience. We actually have a kitchen where we hold cooking events and we hold cultural cooking events to really show people how efficient and how like top notch this technology is, and how it really can serve the purpose of a really a high quality experience, as well as decarbonizing. I think I'll leave it at that for that question, and hand it off to I don't know, whoever wants to go next.
Yeah. Anybody else want to talk about how your product is helping to democratize? Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, so I think about distributed energy. So transitioning the building, giving building owners and occupants the opportunity to move their load to periods where they can reduce the demand and supply, shifting from on-peak to off-peak periods, so they can absorb more of the excess of cleaner renewable energy that's available on the grid. And I agree with Rebecca that educating and making customers aware of this. In my experience in the past, customers have a hard time understanding the difference between a kilowatt and a kilowatt hour. So keeping the message simple and straightforward, and making these programs easy and accessible is just critically important to adoption.
Okay.
Yeah, I can add on to that. I also ditto what everyone else has said here. I mean, at the end of the day, it needs to be really, really transparent and clear to customers. Hey, why should I electrify my home? They're looking at it from a financial point of view. Most people are. It's like, how much is it going to cost me, and how much money am I going to save? How many rebates do I get? Like, there are more and more resources coming on the market. I know Rewiring America, there's different home electrification marketplaces, but that needs to be ultra clear, because people are mostly looking at this from a financial point of view. And that's going to be so key. And if you can really save the money, and if there's ways to, save more on your utility bill, or have these different rebates, people need to know that up front, or they're not going to do that. And then they're going to have a gas appliance for the next 10, 15 years. So it's really massive that this education up front needs to be accessible and really easy to understand. Two, I think access across the board. So we need to be thinking about low-income communities. I know with IRA, there are a lot of different rebates, and even with Sonoma Clean Power and other utilities and CCAs having specific things for low-income communities, maybe even, if possible, just completely providing free things. For example, we've had different pilots, one with SoCal Edison, where we actually just gave our smart splitter for free to disadvantaged communities to enable home electrification and EV charging. The more of these types of programs we can have, the easier it'll be to give these communities access who are disproportionately affected by carbon emissions and other technologies they really need. So those are kind of the key things that I'm thinking about, and some of the things that we're doing really to make to democratize electrification.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, for us, it started with a question of democratizing electrification. The first question was, who is going to get access to and benefit from these new technologies? I think there's a narrative that makes sense for electric vehicles, that making faster, expensive, like crazy supercars was the right way to scale the technology to everyone. But when we started Gradient, we looked at HVAC, and that absolutely didn't need to be true. And furthermore, HVAC is a tool for climate change adaptation. A lot of folks need better HVAC to protect themselves from the effects of climate change. And there was no reason that those people shouldn't have first access to the new wave of technologies that we were going to develop to democratize, or to electrify. And so for us, that meant we designed our product to have a really streamlined, low-cost, fast install, specifically in older multifamily buildings where a lot of communities lived that were seeing the worst effects of climate change. And so that was democratization for us. It was making sure we were building solutions for people who needed it most from an adaptation perspective. And then one other way we think about it is on the kind of economic benefits and jobs side. We are transitioning our energy economy from one based on fossil fuels to one based on electricity and renewable energy. And as you do that, you're going to leave certain communities behind that were traditionally employed by traditional energy. And so we've looked at how we can design our system to better train workforces on the install and services side. Our system is really easy to train folks up, so it makes it easier to create new jobs and install of heat pumps. Also, we look carefully at where this is being built and what jobs we were creating on the manufacturing side. So I think that's also important for democratizing electrification, is making sure that we're creating high-paying, stable jobs for communities that need them.
Great. So while I have you, Vince, then why don't we just roll into the next question? Because I think you touched on a lot of this about what your target market is and how does your product help reduce cost to that market?
Sure. So for us, if you've seen our product, you can go to our website and see it. Our website's gradientcomfort.com. It's kind of like a saddlebag that goes over a windowsill. And so if you think of a window that traditionally has a window AC, the boxy window AC, it's an up and down opening window. Our system can install in any of those windows that's currently using a window AC. It gives you that window space back. This is what I was talking about focusing on the user experience and home comfort. It is a much quieter, better looking device than the window AC. It lets you open and close your window and get natural light back through your window. And then it also does all of the decarbonizing things. It is a heat pump. It's all your comfort, smart variable speed drives, and uses a better refrigerant. And so our main focus is broadly any window that has a window AC, specifically older multifamily buildings built before around 1970 traditionally have this style of window, have very old heating and cooling systems. And with other systems on the market today, would require a very expensive construction retrofit project that would mean electricians, HVAC technicians, scaffolding, often asbestos mitigation, often displacing the resident for a few days. And our system installs in less than an hour with a 120-volt outlet with no special permits or certifications. And so that's our market, older multifamily, especially with window ACs.
Okay. And do you touch a little bit more? I didn't quite hear it there on how your product is kind of reducing costs to customers.
The install cost of most other heat pumps in these buildings is about twice ours, the fully quoted installed cost.
Yeah, that's perfect. All right, thanks. Anybody else want to touch on that?
Yeah, I can touch on that. So for us, our first product, the Smart Splitter, it's a 240-volt Smart Splitter, mainly focused on single-family homes. So it could be for homeowners or renters. That's the great thing about the Smart Splitter, is also helping save costs. It's a plug-and-play device that plugs into a 240-volt outlet, so you don't need to rewire your home. Mainly targeted more on, for the EV side of things, people that have a 240-volt outlet that's in or near the garage, for example, like a dryer or a water heater. We also have another use case where people are sharing two appliances on one 240-volt outlet, where that 240-volt outlet could be really anywhere in the home. Think like, a hot water heater and an electric dryer sharing one circuit. And the Smart Splitters, it's fully UL listed. It has smart switching built into it to ensure you're not going to overload your outlet. And like I said, the main benefit is comparing, an installation of a new 240-volt outlet that can require a multi-$1,000 panel upgrade. Instead, the Smart Splitter shares that existing circuit, no permits, no electrician needed, no panel upgrade needed. So right now, our customers save on average around $2,000 per customer per home by avoiding that panel upgrade. So that's really what we're all about.
Great. Good.
Yeah. So our initial market is different. So we serve that ubiquitous non-residential building market that uses packaged rooftop air conditioners, typically buildings under 400,000 square feet, under 4 stories. Think of grocery stores, box retail, fast food restaurants, and the like. And we save our consumers money by getting rid of the electrical compressor. It's consuming a lot of energy used for cooling. So we save kilowatts and kilowatt hours, permanently reshaping the building's load, actually decoupling it from temperature. So every day is like a spring day on our commercial building customers. And by doing that, they can save on their peak demand charges and take advantage of time of use rates by shifting their electricity consumption. We really greatly benefit with programs like the Market Access Program, which is that the avoided cost of electricity that's time and locational dependent. And that pays our customers the life cycle avoided cost. So the 15-year avoided cost is paid up front. And because we can shift the electricity and use it when it's like negatively priced in California, and then avoid the higher price after 6 p.m. electricity, and actually then tune it, aggregate it, and dispatch it as those prices change, we can optimize and save them a great deal of money. And this unlocks what we call Blue Frontier HVAC as a service. So we could use a subscription service to avoid the upfront costs associated with adopting and installing new technology.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you all. And just a little bit of a follow-up question for you, Vince. With this, saddlebag kind of technology with a heat pump around, a little bit inside the unit and outside the unit, is one of your pieces of technology enough for a whole multifamily unit typically, or is there going to be many in one unit?
So our system is 9,000 BTU per hour, which is typically what industry would say is sized for a 400 square foot room. And so you would put roughly one system in every major room of a home. In the US, a lot of our single family homes have ducted air. In the rest of the world, a lot of folks have already moved on to ductless systems like mini splits, where you have a cooling or / heating terminal roughly in each room. And so there's lots of precedent for having this sort of modular approach where you have a terminal in each room. And I think there's two benefits. One is that you get much better zonal control from the customer's perspective. You can decide if one room's always hot or one room's always cold to adjust them so that you're comfortable in each room. And then when people do that, you're also only heating and cooling the rooms that you need. And so you often see a reduction in total energy used because you're cooling space only as necessary. And so you do need to put one system in each major room, but we actually see this as a benefit and a much better customer experience than a centralized control system.
All right. So your product is like a saddlebag ducted mini split.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a very accurate description. Yeah.
Ductless mini split. Great. All right, and Greg, next question's to you. Your product really is built on energy storage. Being able to draw on cheap times of the grid and avoid using electricity expensive times of the grid. Can you tell us a little more about this and what what you're finding in terms of benefits to both the customer and the grid?
Yeah, and to society at large, because we make the cost and reliability impact of heat waves go away. Can you imagine if heat waves came and went and we didn't care? So our first product is a 15 to 20 ton dedicated outdoor air supply unit, which is designed to provide and condition fresh air ventilation, and it delivers 24-hour continuous cooling. We relieve approximately 20% of the ventilation air requirements from the existing package rooftop units. So by able to close off those ventilation air dampers, they operate now in a returned air condition, which is a much narrower cooling space. So it makes all of the other units that are on the existing building more efficient. And then because our storage is designed for aggregation and dispatch, like we talked earlier, we can store that electricity, like say between 10 and 3 in the afternoon, and we store it in a simple plastic tank. If we want to extend the hours of energy storage from 4 hours to 6 to optimize the benefits of the grid, or based on a certain tariff, we just add more of our liquid desiccant storage into that tank. So it's very simple to expand. So that provides the benefits of avoiding the need for dispatching or even having spinning reserves in that post-solar period, and kind of reducing the number of electrochemical batteries that are needed for air conditioning at night. So as California moves to more of a complete view of decarbonized electricity, all these technologies are going to be important to do this. So when we combine making the heat waves go away, load shifting, permanent load shaping, and energy efficiency, one of the things that's actually really crazy about our technology is its cooling capacity and its efficiency increases as outdoor air temperatures increase. So we're again future-proofing the grid against and buildings against the global warming trends.
That's great. And I've got a follow-up question here. I know that the wintertime peaks aren't an issue today, but we anticipate them to be an issue in the future. Is your product also able to kind of ride out the cold periods of the day, like you were talking about on the air conditioning side, and the hot periods of the day?
So we're addressing summer air conditioning, which I know you're right. When you look at the winter, the heating peaks, it can be in some cases, like in New England, 3x the summer peak, which is hard to even get your head around, right? Because assets in utilities are about 40% utilized with summer peak demand. We are working on technologies to add novel winter heat, but right now our product works with the existing solutions that are there, so we're agnostic to building heating. But we'll be talking about some future developments that allow the energy storage to store heat for those extreme or those cooler days in California.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect. I mean, your technology is right what we need today, right? Like it's all about the summer peak, so it's right where it needs to be.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, Spencer, what other practical approaches or technologies do you see that could really help reduce cost to when we're wanting to electrify homeowners? What else do you see out there?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, I think that there's a few different things that you can do. One, I think figuring out whatever is possible to help reduce installation costs. I mean, if you need to upgrade every electric panel in the US, to electrify all these homes, it's going to cost, north of $100 billion to do that. Now, if you want to electrify these homes quickly, efficiently, and cost effectively, you can't do a panel upgrade on every single, 50 million homes across the US. So what are some of the ways that you can get around that? What are some approaches? What are some technologies? Well, you have gradient. You have certain appliances that you can use. There's an approach called the watt diet approach. Many of you may know, but really trying to figure out, hey, how can we use 120 volt appliances like a Rheem 120 volt heat pump water heater, and maybe circuit splitters such as the smart splitter to use the existing circuits you have in your home and have all of the appliances that you would need while keeping it to a 100 amp panel, which is most common, and not needing to upgrade that. That's going to save so much money, potentially, 50 billion, almost up to $100 billion in the US, which is a really big deal. So I think anything you can do to really retrofit existing homes, not need panel upgrades, used 120 volt appliances is going to be really key. Other things that we're looking at, I think that are going to be really important is how can you also potentially utilize software to reduce the need for panel upgrades as well. For example, maybe you can interface with the panel and say, hey, your EV is running right now, but if we just paused your EV for the next hour, then your panel will be within the total panel capacity that you need, and you don't need to get a panel upgrade. So other novel approaches, I know Span has their smart panel, obviously a bit more expensive, but it does do that sort of thing where you can actually reduce the need for, utility service upgrades, infrastructure, and then still kind of need to get a panel upgrade because you're paying for a new panel, but still I think that's going to be pretty key. And then other ways that we're looking at helping save, homeowners money is how can you, shift loads to times when it's going to be more affordable. For example, in California, where we have, time of use rates, how can we just automate energy usage so it's cheaper? Also utilizing energy at times when there's actually more clean energy on the grid to really make the entire system more efficient. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking about and that I think we all need to really employ to make this as cost effective and quick as possible to get us to our climate goals.
Yeah, thanks, Spencer. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think I think your estimate for what did you say, 100 billion to replace all the panels? I think that seems incredibly low. But do you think it's reasonable to electrify most homes on, you said, 100 amp panel?
Yeah, I think the data is really showing that. If anyone knows someone named Steve Schmidt, he's put a lot of data together for about 22,000 homes in PG&E territory and found that really most people aren't even using their full panel capacity. So if you can add, load flexibility or circuit splitters into the mix there, you don't need to upgrade every panel, but you need to be smart about how you're doing it. So that's why I bring this up is like, hey, what kind of approaches are you using? How are you saving money? How are you reducing panel upgrades? Because that's how you're going to electrify homes in the quickest way possible. And, at the PG&E Innovation Summit about a month or two ago, they were saying, they're backed up with so many different kind of things that they need to do in terms of interconnection agreements when installing new appliances or utility upgrades. And if we can just utilize the existing infrastructure we have, not need to do transformer upgrades, not need to go do a panel upgrade in every single home, it's going to save everyone money and time. And right now, electricians are even backed up. It's like if you need to get an electrician and you want to do all this installation in your home, sometimes that can take 6 months, 12 months, which is too long for most people. People don't want to wait that long. So if you're going to want to electrify your home and that's now a barrier, okay, I'm just going to go with the gas appliance. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. So we need to have a solution for this.
Yeah. I think that's great, Spencer, and you hit on it. I've seen that data from AEA as well, and it clearly shows that 2 to 3% of homes would need a panel upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
Rest of them, probably not, with some smart technology being deployed, like what you're offering. But that's not common. That's not common knowledge on the street, right? And that's what we start back with Rebecca and what she said in the beginning, right? Like, we need to get the information out there that this is not necessarily necessary, that everyone has a bigger panel. And as I see a couple questions start coming in, just want to tell everyone, put your questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to those kind of at the end of this session as well. In about 10-15 minutes, we'll get to those questions. All right, moving on, Rebecca. We'll just bring you back into this conversation. Tell us about the role that the Advanced Energy Centers is playing, getting new technologies to your customers' homes.
Right. So, I'm a little different on this panel. I don't actually have a technology. Our role is to see these technologies get into the home. So we're here to try to scale and make these technologies accessible to anyone in a building, basically. If you need water heating, space conditioning, cooking, ventilation, anything like that. I just want to note that to date, in just over 2 years of our Advanced Energy Center being open, we've deployed over 1,300 projects. So we're very proud of that. We still have a lot of work to do. They've mostly been, over half of those have been heat pump space conditioning, followed by about a quarter being heat pump water heaters, and we're doing a lot of work to get induction more mainstream. But what we've really realized is that the best thing we can do to accelerate these technologies is to listen to what the customers need, listen to what the contractors are saying. So on that note, we really opened up our space for community events, workshops, meetings. So we're getting people that wouldn't necessarily be interested in our space to come into it for another reason, and then that sparks their interest. And so we're there to ask or answer the questions they have, and to kind of introduce them to this world, and that it's not so far-fetched. So yeah, one of the big things we're doing again is the community events and workshops. We also provide lending of equipment. We allow people to walk out with an induction cooking hob, so they can go home and test it before they make this big decision to switch off gas, which seems to be very scary for a lot of people. But yeah, really getting so in our first year, we kind of, I'll use the term straggled with projects. We were running all of our projects through a dedicated contractor network, of which we had about 14. The incentives were going to the contractors and not the customers. And we heard over and over again how the customers didn't realize they got an incentive because it was passed down through the contractor's invoice, and the contractors didn't want to deal with the paperwork, and they didn't want to deal with all the red tape and bureaucracy, as they say, and the computer work. And so we really listened, and we pivoted, and we made the incentives go directly to customers, and the customers could actually use whatever contractor they were comfortable with. What we were hearing was people saying, I have my trusted contractor, I want to work with them. And what that did is it really put the power in the people, the customers' hands, and they brought their contractors along. We went from 14 contractors that were working with us to 55 in the matter of a year and a half. So yeah, I guess I'll just say, be willing to listen and not be so stuck in a way of which an offering or a program is designed, and really be able to adapt to what the marketplace is telling you. And like I said, we began kind of I think we had about 160 or 180 projects our first year, and now we have over 1,300 so you can tell how many projects happened in that second year after we made that pivot. So yeah, I think listening is always very important.
Right. Right. Very good. All right. So a follow-up question on that is, how's the Advanced Energy Center, how can it work to better serve the needs of your customers who are low income, renter populations, and maybe non-English speakers?
Right. So we already currently offer a much higher incentive for low income customers. We had provided 0% financing in hopes that, people with little capital would be able to utilize that to instigate these projects. What we found was that it was actually the more financially savvy people that took advantage of the 0% financing. And so we're really looking at, how can we kind of relaunch that 0% financing, or what can we do to really capture and help the low income customers along. I do have my own opinions. I think we have to solve the split incentive issue with renters. That's the challenge of the ages, right? It's like, the landlord doesn't pay the electricity bill, the renter has no control, but the renter is the one that would reap the benefits, not only the energy and bill savings, but also the health impacts of much cleaner technology. So we have to solve that. We also have to help people navigate the multitude of funding pools, programs, resources, financing. So I really see the Advanced Energy Center as being a place where people can go, not only physically, but through our website and through email, help us gather everything that we can to maximize the economic benefit of these projects. But saying that, those are my opinions. I don't know really how to get there, but we have just to address this issue, we have launched our community needs assessments, where we're really focusing again on, shocker, listening to the community. And we've really been going out to different community-based organizations and partnering with them with their existing trusted base of clients and members, and really doing focus groups and surveys and key informant interviews to really hear what would break down those barriers and what we could do better at the Advanced Energy Center to serve those customers. So kind of watch this space and see what those community and needs assessments yield. But in the meantime, we're still trying to do the best we can.
Well, we're all looking forward to learning from your work and seeing how we can solve some of those issues. Those are big issues. All right, so a little bit in closing, and this question's open up to everyone. Just give me your thoughts on what more can be done to help get these technology and these innovations deployed in order to accelerate electrification. What do we need to do to really just accelerate this and get this out to democratize, to lower the cost, to get it in everyone's arms?
I can speak to the key national accounts and on the commercial side who participate in the Edison Electric Institute. You can imagine if you have a footprint across the United States and across California, and you have 50 different utilities and 40 different programs, and trying to figure out where you can have gas, can't have gas, it's mind-numbing. So to the degree that we can be consistent and offer highly differentiated pricing, so the prices to devices kind of story that you hear. So I would say uniformity, transparency, and differentiation of pricing.
Great. Somebody else want to jump on that one?
I'm happy to jump in. Yeah, so a few of the ways that I think we can help get these technologies deployed and really raise the level of awareness. I think one thing that we've seen that works really well is we have the smart splitters deployed in many different homes, but we've worked with SMUD. They're offering a rebate, so anyone that lives in Sacramento can basically get the smart splitter for free, which I think that sort of thing, if you do that with other utilities, that can save people tons of money. It's let's say you have 100 participants, each one saves $2,000. You can see that money really add up, and that's just putting the money back into the pockets of people that really need it. So that's really key. I think also having funding sources for startups and innovators like us, that really makes or breaks a company. It makes or breaks the innovations that get into people's hands, the things that save people money, the things that actually reduce carbon emissions. And us innovators need funding like that to stay alive, whether that's manufacturing, building new software products, getting a product off the ground. There are different programs from the CEC that have helped us get to where we are, and same with Gradient, and I'm sure everyone else here on the call. But the more we can do that to really incentivize and provide opportunities for innovators in this state and across the US, that's going to make or break how quickly we can really decarbonize. So I've seen it firsthand, and we need more funding like that. So.
Great. Well, there's certainly a lot of funding coming in this market space. Vince?
Yeah, I would say if we want to help deploy these technologies, I actually think Rebecca already gave the perfect answer to this. Listening is step one. Listening is probably also step 3 and 5 and 7. And it's absolutely where you have to start. It is the most important thing to drive home. When we started, an example of this for us is, we started talking to folks about their HVAC efficiency and their carbon emissions, and it wasn't something that was top of mind for them. What they wanted is their window back. This is what people cared about. So we heard, we want our window back. We live in a small apartment. There's not a lot of natural light, and that's what we focused on. So that was an example of it for us. Obviously, it gets much more nuanced on that as you think about the whole life cycle of products, but listening is absolutely number one. I also think this is a time where we have a really urgent need to make massive shifts in our infrastructure. And I think that from a kind of policy and funding standpoint, I think there has to be a lot of intention around how we design public programs, which are incentives, regulations, R&D funding, scale-up funding, advanced market commitments, in a way that works for a company to make it through the entire ecosystem of like idea to listening and exploration to design to scale up of manufacturing. Energy Commission has been, in my opinion, I'm biased, but leading the country in this. Programs like RAMP and Bridge have kind of helped connect all of the dots from initial idea to scale up. That has to keep going. There's never only one solution for how you scale a company and a technology. It has to be a very yes and solution, so that we're looking at this entire scale up path. And I also think, bringing it back to the session topic, it has to be democratized. We have to look at who is benefiting from these products, who is benefiting from the jobs that are created, because if this is something that we're doing on a policy level, it has to benefit all Americans, and it will not be politically stable and tractable if it doesn't. And so the democratization question, I think, is really important.
Yeah, great. Any final thoughts?
Am I the last? Yeah, I agree with everything that was said, and I'll just add on 2 things that are totally disparate from each other. But the first is, I've electrified my home, and I can tell you I've spent days upon days upon days at home while this was happening. Not everybody has that privilege to work from home or have, be able to Zoom into calls, or so kind of anything that is ease of installation will really, really help, so that people don't have to miss work or whatever their day-to-day responsibilities are. And then the totally separate, unrelated topic, and it's not real, it's not central to this panel here, but we hear often in our territory, especially because we're subject to public safety power shutoffs and extreme weather outages, and flex alerts, people have to be confident in the grid to come along. So they need to be shown that there is being investment on the grid infrastructure such that electrification of their homes and businesses doesn't leave them high and dry, because that seems to be a common concern in our territory.
Okay, well, great. All right, so just for everyone, if you've got a question, put it in the Q&A, which is kind of where we're all going now. We're going to go shift over to the Q&A, and we'll start with the first question that came in from Mark Roast, and it's to you, Spencer. I think you can see these as well, but what about using cyber switching to spread charging up to 4 vehicles overnight on high level 2 charging? It's switching from one vehicle to the next when charge starts to level off and then goes back to top off. Only one primary circuit can serve 4 vehicles.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Mark. To be honest, I'm not fully familiar with cyber switching. It sounds like that could be more of maybe a multi-unit dwelling or apartment type solution. We're a lot more focused on residential, and at homes, you're not really seeing 4 vehicle EVs, at least yet. We actually do have a few customers that have 4 EVs, but it's very rare. Most of the time, it's going to be 1 EV or 2 EVs max. So that really wouldn't apply to residential, but it's a good thought.
So maybe a follow-up question on that, Spencer. So can you combine multiple NeoCharges, right? NeoCharge prioritizes one appliance. So could you plug 3 of these together and it prioritizes one and then switches to the next one and then the next one? Is that?
Theoretically, it's possible, but it's not recommended. Yeah, I mean, most of the time, you're not really going to need to do that anyways. But it's not really fully advised to do that. Yeah, I mean, most of the time it's like you have 2 things on one, but whether it's a dryer and EV, 2 EVs or 2 appliances, and then you have another 240 volt outlet, you can share something else on that. Like, we have everything under the sun that people are using, from AC, RV, welders, hot tubs, saunas, everything under the sun. So yeah, a lot of things plug into 240 outlets.
Okay. All right. So be advised, don't do multiples. The next question is from Stephen Rosenblum. Do you think that bidirectional EV charging would help with democratization? Vince, do you want to?
I'm obviously in the HVAC space, so I don't have a lot of super specific expertise, but when you think about bidirectional EV charging, it could help with some of the sort of resilience questions that people have around EVs. I know that range anxiety is a big question, and like, you're going to have someone bring you a can of gas in a traditional car, and maybe bidirectional charging with EVs can kind of be the way to do a jump start or to get fuel out there. And also, charging infrastructure is a problem. I think the day-to-day life of charging an EV, especially in a city, if that's going to help solve kind of the day-to-day charging question, I don't know. I think I would have to start with probably listening more and asking more questions from folks who are in that situation. So it certainly is an interesting tool, but I'm not sure if I have any more specific answer than that.
All right. Yeah, sorry, that was a little bit my mistake on that. Go ahead, Spencer.
Yeah, I can touch on that. So I think bidirectional charging is awesome. The challenge is right now, it's going to cost you $5,000 to $10,000 for all the equipment to get bidirectional, at least in your home. I think it's very beneficial to the grid, but I think that's not the focus. I think really where we should be focusing is, how can we actually utilize EVs and time EVs or different home energy devices to coincide with times that are going to reduce stress on the grid? That solves, 98% of these issues. I heard Jagar Shah talking about this ahead of the DOE's loan office, and that, virtual power plants and just shifting energy will solve 98% of these issues, which also does help democratize things and helps reduce the total cost of electricity. So bidirectional charging is great. I don't think it is required. I think it will help, but we're 5 to 10 years away from the grid being able to handle that and it being affordable enough to put in your home.
Great. And I don't know that this is true, but well, okay, perfect. It went away. So Vince, it looks like you would like to answer this question, if I understand it. For the Gradient, Blue Frontier, NeoCharge, are all of the technologies being deployed on the ground? What challenges are you encountered with your deployments? So, like, are these actually being shipped and being used, and what are your challenges?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I pushed the wrong button there. I was gonna try to type an answer, but answering it live works as well. So
okay.
Sorry, I am still learning how to use Zoom after all these years.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we have multiple hundreds of systems deployed right now and running in the field. Again, if you've seen our hardware, we've very much streamlined the install and deployment process by removing a lot of the need for technicians, building modification. There's not even a screw in the window. The flip side of that is the challenge that we have now is scaling up manufacturing. Building a large hardware product as some folks on this call know, it is hard and takes time. And so a lot of our focus now is, especially coming out of this interesting supply chain environment that we just left for the pandemic, making sure that we have robust supply chains, that we have scaled manufacturing capacity, and that we can deliver on the market demand. So that's where we are now. Scaling manufacturing is the hardest part for us for deploying.
What about you, Spencer? You know, talk about deployment, and then we'll jump to you.
Yeah, we have many of these deployed. We're actually in every state in the US now. We have thousands in California, and working with many of the top utilities. I would say the biggest thing to really kind of wide scale deployment, and something that's a challenge for us, is people need to have a 240 outlet. And if it's for EV charging, it needs to be within range of their garage. So it doesn't work for every home. And we know that. And it's actually a good thing, because if you're trying to focus on everything at once, I feel like it's just going to be hard to focus. So for us, we focus on homes that do have that 240, likely near the garage. But for the people that have that set up, I mean, like I said, most people are saving about $2,000. So yes, it is deployed, and that's kind of the main challenge that we're seeing.
Good. Even get you off mute there.
My space bar transition when the chat's up. That's interesting learning experience. So Blue Frontier, we are just moving into the field doing tests and evaluations with programs like CalNext. So we have units that are going in across the United States with us. You know, the challenges, we're working with key national accounts and large electric utilities. So it's finding the emerging technology customers that want to take that early technology risk. And then, yes, scaling for manufacturability, and then educating the industry on the differences of using liquid desiccant, for dehumidifying air and conditioning air, as opposed to all the things that they know about direct expansion. So it's market education, awareness. The good news is that there's a lot of sustainability initiatives, and our customers are very serious about that. So they're not looking for marginal improvements. So just in the past, where they might have upgraded the motor to variable speed drive, that's not going to get them to their sustainability goal. So finding and working with those clients that are serious about decarbonization, and utilities and regulators that are supporting those investments behind the meter is all great and important and challenging.
Okay, great. Thank you, Greg. So Spencer, this next question is straight for you, and let me just summarize it as like, is your product legal? And like, what? Because I've heard this before too. I've heard the contractors are out there saying, you can't do this stuff. And then I think you can see the question. So respond to the rest of that. Like, does this person, do they have to have an upgraded panel? I mean, it all depends on the house, right? But like, is that really necessary? Well,
yeah, so I think it can be somewhat subjective according to building codes, but what we found, I mean, it's fully UL certified. We meet NEC regulations because we're keeping it within 80% of what the actual service or the breaker can handle, as long as you're within 80% of that. So for example, a dryer circuit would be on 30 amps. You can only run 24 amps highest. So we did go through rigorous testing with UL. We've also done a lot of different research on this. And at the end of the day, it's an end user installable product. So you don't need permits, and it's up to you whether you want to install it or not, and not necessarily up to the contractor, because you're not making any specific like rewiring or changes to the home. You're just using the existing circuitry. It's up to you. And it is, we found that it's legal and it works excellent for a lot of people.
And I think to touch on the second part of that, the second part of that is, yes, this product, when you use it, can help you avoid panel upgrades. And if you've got a 125 amp panel, it all depends on your house and how big your house and how many gas appliances. And if you've got a 20,000 square foot house, you're going to need to upgrade your panel. But most likely, you can make it work on your 125 amp panels using smart technologies along the way. So
definitely. Yeah, I definitely recommend taking a look at that report from Steve Schmidt. I think it's somewhere here in the chat. So definitely go take a look at that. But that is a big issue. I see that, you have a service that's buried underneath the ground, it looks like, which we've seen for a lot of our customers. I remember the highest we've ever seen was someone that had a quote, it was going to be about $40,000 for them to get everything they needed to install an outlet for EV charging at home, and ridiculous. That's not standard, but still, if you need to do trenching and there's a lot of upgrades that you need to make, it's going to take a long time, get really expensive. So,
yeah, and there are ways around that most of the time.
Yep.
So keep searching for answers. Thanks, Claire. Question from Dan. The global scale of democratizing power. Well, will work seamlessly for everyone without needing to convert people one by one. Join behind deep geothermal power, which is zero CO2. Several companies are looking at technology to drill deep. So I don't know that this directly fits into our panel today, without reading it all word for word. And geothermal is a way to help in decarbonize, but that's not really what the topic of this panel. So maybe that could be a future panel. It's coming up. And here we have about 5 minutes left in this one. Let me see the next one from Robert. Are there any products offering renters a standalone solar PV solution that can plug directly into appliances or be easily integrated into a unit circuit panel? Anybody know about standalone solar panels?
I don't. I think it's a challenge with how effectively you can use that energy, and also the cost of transforming that voltage from the solar panel to what's usable by an appliance. I know that there are some building integrated solar that's working to be tied directly to the point of use, so that you don't have to go through an inverter and through the panel. But I'm not sure of anything that's on the market today.
I have seen and I have heard of solar panels that like an apartment dweller could put on their balcony and plug in and run, I don't know, their crock pot or something on. From what I've seen, I don't know that those are actually approved for use. So I wouldn't run out and get anything like that. But yeah, that one's a hard one to democratize, I think, solar. It's got to go on the roof. So another question here at the end, can Blue Frontier salt solution tech be applied to heat pumps, and how do you compare to heat pumps, pros and cons?
Okay, so the Blue Frontier technology is actually heat driven. So just like if you understand a solid desiccant wheel, once that desiccant absorbs moisture, the way you recondition it is you heat it. And what Blue Frontier has done is we've electrified our system by using a heat pump. Now, we don't use that heat pump for air conditioning. That's why I said as it gets hotter outside, that heat pump's more efficient because we're pulling air, right, heat out of the air. And we also talked about in the future being able to use that heat pump to provide winter heating, where today it's just focused on the air conditioning side. So it doesn't work. It uses a heat pump or waste heat. In the case of like a fast food restaurants where you can pull the waste heat off of the kitchen, you get basically free air conditioning. In the case of a heat pump, we do use that, and we use the low GWP refrigerant, the 454B. Doesn't interact with the building air conditioning, so we don't have the problems of permitting it. So we have a little bit of a first mover advantage there. And in the future, we'll use that heat pump to provide winter heating with some storage to overcome the spikes that we talked about with like the electric peak in the winter. Okay.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much. Does anyone have any parting comments? Because that's pretty much takes us to our time limit. And anything else you might like to toss in there? If not, I'm not seeing anyone being too anxious. I just want to thank all of our panelists for showing up today and providing such great insights into your products or services, in your case, Rebecca. And I also want to just kind of announce to everyone on this, all 81 of you that are hanging on, this kind of concludes today's conference and presentations from the panel. But please join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. when this all gets going again for tomorrow. So thank you, everyone, for showing up. Thank you for the people who attended in the audience, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye.